Our parents, Norman and Ruth Englander, instilled three very important qualities in us. Always be ready to lend a helping hand, stand up for a just cause, and leave a good first impression. I remember being about 4 years old and spending a lot of time in the basement of our old house on Deloraine Avenue. Larry had set up a study down there so that he could do his homework. And as long as I was quiet and I didn't put his extensive record collection out of alphabetical order, I was allowed to stay and play and keep him company while he did his homework. And I think in that way I assisted him in honing his concentration skills, which helped him later on in life and in university particularly.
Growing up with Cheryl was a lot of fun. Of course, I grew up and she didn't. My parents and Cheryl and I formed a unit that was together a lot. And it was wonderful as I look back on it. At times we didn't have very much, and yet I was never really aware of that. And recognizing just how close our family was growing up and the values that my parents held as important certainly has influenced me, Ricky, and my family, and I know is integral to Cheryl and Larry's thinking as well.
The most influential person in Larry's life, in his early life, was our great-grandfather, Joseph Bachnick. Joseph Bachnick was a prominent figure in the Jewish community in Toronto in the early 20th century up to World War II. Being very close to Larry when he was a child, Larry took an immediate affinity to him. Zeta Joe became a real mentor because of his involvement in the Jewish community and his faith and Larry's upbringing within that. I think it had a major influence on allowing Larry to decide at a very young age what he wanted to be. Larry excelled through his school years, finishing high school earlier than most people did, and then applied to York University to get his Bachelor of Arts degree. And during that time, to earn a living during the summers, he was employed by Larry Bell, the director of Camp Robin Hood.
Pearl and I remember Larry when he came to camp as a counselor in our senior unit. He was a high school student who played guitar and had some fun with the kids, and actually he was a Pied Piper of our camp, and everybody seemed to latch on to Larry and to follow him, and I think that that's where he got an inclination that he would be good working with people and with kids.
But what drew us to Larry, and ultimately to Cheryl as well, was their ability to get on with people, whether it was their own age or the younger kids, and just a unique charm that obviously you knew this was just the stepping stones for something greater that lay ahead of them.
13 cars are piled up there hanging on a cliff.
It was towards the end of Larry's days at York University that Larry and Cheryl started dating and became very close.
I just remember that Larry was suddenly there. And then he wasn't there because then he went to Israel for his first year of rabbinical school. And all I remember is the phone ringing and it's long distance, Cheryl, it's Larry, and the boom, how Cheryl, who never moved very quickly, suddenly was moving quickly.
Larry and I were randomly roomed together in New York for an orientation for our first year in Israel program. The hotel we stayed at had a door on a spring that made the door slam. Larry went to bed earlier than I did. When I came in, the door slammed. I obviously woke him up. When I tried to get into bed and found my bed short-sheeted, Larry burst in hysterics, and I started to laugh as well.
After the year spent studying in Israel, Larry returned home to Cheryl.
I remember vividly the evening when they announced their engagement and the excitement from the living room, which was really just 4 feet from where my bedroom was, but nonetheless the excitement at their getting engaged and my parents screaming Mazel Tov, and my yelling from my bedroom that I shared with either my uncle or my Zaidi, whoever happened to be living with us at the time, it's about time. and then things started to happen. Before the wedding and after the wedding, my parents were always so happy. Larry was a wonderful addition to our family, and I know how happy my parents were that Cheryl had found someone who loved her so much and who she loved. They remained in Toronto for Larry's second year as he was a student rabbi at Temple Sinai.
Students were sent to small or fledgling congregations around North America on alternate weekends to assist in practice as rabbis. And as luck would have it, Larry drew an assignment to a new synagogue in Mississauga called Salel. And it didn't take many weekends for the members there to realize that they had found their future rabbi. At the time, Salel was operating out of a building that was once a private mansion and even a monastery at one point that today is known as the Glen Erin Inn. In 1978, Salel congregation acquired a piece of land off of Erin Mills Parkway in Mississauga, and construction began on the synagogue's permanent home. Of course, Larry and the board of directors were there to closely monitor the construction, and in December of 1979, the new synagogue was ready, and a march of congregants was formed to walk with Torahs from Glen Erin to Salel's new home. It was an unforgettable day. Warmer than normal for that time of the year, a fog developed that hovered in the sky almost like a canopy or a chuppah. The throng of Salelniks sang and danced, and they carried the Torahs to their new home. And at the front doors, everyone gathered for the mezuzah ceremony, and then we entered, and a party ensued. So now that they had a physical structure, a place to call home, it was time to lay the foundation for an education system.
Beit Sefer Salel started with the rabbi and a couple of volunteer teachers meeting in our old building on what is now Glen Erin Inn. Eventually, through the hard work of Ellis Stock, we became part of something called the International Language Program, and we started meeting at Catholic schools, which invited us to share their language and heritage programs. And we've continued both as a partner with the Catholic School Board, as well, continuing to have just parents as our teachers. Every single member of staff is a parent or a child of a parent. Every bar bat mitzvah tutor is one of our own. Every music teacher, Hebrew teacher, they're all congregants who basically work for an honorarium. They are so dedicated to keeping this school alive and this Jewish community vibrant that they give their time, their effort, and their love to Beit Sefer Salel.
So now, having been entrenched in a permanent home for Salel, it was time for the Salel community to reach out to the community at large, that being the city of Mississauga.
When I look back on knowing Rabbi Larry and Cheryl, it is so many things that they have contributed to the community. When we opened the nonprofit housing, that he was the instigator of, and he was the one that created that. It was something different, you know, that somebody would take the initiative to do something like that. And the same with the food path. You know, we didn't have such a setup in our city, but he thought about it. As I say, both he and Cheryl, all they do is care about people. That is their objective in life, and they do it so well. I just can't remember all the wonderful things they've done. Cheryl now is on the board of hospice, again making a contribution, and she's been a very aggressive member of that board to make sure that Mississauga has such a facility. The way they've worked with the created interfaith groups, bringing faith groups together, you know, which is so badly needed. And they saw the need for it and did something about it.
Whether together or separately, Larry and Cheryl have been a positive influence, not only for Salel, but the community at large for many years. And as a result of that, One member in particular, Roma Reeves, took it upon herself to petition the Canadian government to get Larry the Order of Canada.
The Order of Canada is only given to special Canadians who have contributed to a great deal to improve the lives and happiness of many other Canadians who need help in their lives. Because he's done this in so many ways, I felt inspired that all Canadians should be made aware of this, and that is why I approached the Governor-General and requested that he be honored in this way. It was not because he was a rabbi, but because of what he had achieved and was continuing to do in Tikkun Olam, the mending of the world.
I know that my brother would say that that kind of award is not just bestowed upon him, but it's bestowed upon the people that have been involved with him for so many years in doing that kind of work, particularly Cheryl. So really, it's an award that belongs to both of them. Awards and accolades are not the reasons why Larry and Cheryl do these things. That's not what motivates them. What motivates the both of them is being involved with people, helping people, providing a positive influence wherever they can. And for more than 40 years, that's exactly what they've done, relentlessly, tirelessly, for all that time. Even though what we're celebrating may be called a retirement, that is the farthest thing from the truth. Larry and Cheryl will never retire from doing the things that they love the most, and that's helping people.
The presence of Soleil congregation in Mississauga has been such a great asset to the city in developing a caring community. They help so much to make us a caring community.
Because of their influence, Soleil will continue to be the foundation that encourages fellowship and creates new voices in the community for generations to come.
I'm not sure what he's going to do, but he's far too young to retire. He's a good dancer, wowie.
But when the morning breaks, they're swept away by golden drops of dawn, of changes. Passions will part to a strange melody as fire